Yes, hello tradies. Welcome to 2025. It's not quite season 3 yet.
It's February.
We're calling this a prequel. Welcome back to everyone. We've been so excited to get back into it. We just couldn't wait. And Mitchell, as we welcome you in, we're going to get to just quickly straight off the top because the whole point of this episode started with one of our own, Liam, who sent this in.
Hey boys, welcome back for 2025. Hopefully a big year ahead for tradies. I was wondering if we can get a Mitch's Men-esque segment for Sam this year. I don't know, something like Sam Stars, for example. Hopefully get your own sort of segment in there. Also hopefully get a quick shout out to Zach Johnson, the youngest player in the AFL, playing for the Dons this year. Hopefully a future star. Get around it. Hopefully have a good year, boys.
Can't believe he snuck in a mention for a player.
Just quickly, fun fact before we get underway.
I'm not sure Liam said just quickly, by the way.
Zach Johnson is one of 13 current Essendon players who weren't born when they last won a final.
It's a nice little dig for Essendon supporters as they begin their season. That was unnecessary.
No, I just was doing the numbers the other day and thought it was worth throwing in.
By the way, Just Quickly has gotten so big that it's got its own sponsor. That's how big you are these days. So Just Quickly brought to you by 7-Eleven's food on the go lunchtime offers.
I'm pumped by this.
Both of whom, by the way, you and I are consumers of that product because we're often on the road.
The triple set.
Actually, I just lied. I'm not often on the road now, but I do like 7-Eleven's food.
I don't take my lunch ever when I leave home because you just don't know where the day is going to take you.
You need the meal prep. That's what you need.
No, but I don't know. Like, I can't put it in a little esky thing. I can't.
Yeah, you can.
Keep it cold. I'm on the go. Depends if you're out with the camera. Anyway, long story short.
Can't you just put it in the boot?
The 7-Eleven triple sanger set up with the chicken avo, the ham, cheese, tomato, and the egg and lettuce is a life changer. So
that would have been the best part of a month ago, Scotty, that got sent through. And I was walking Deborah at Faulkner. And it genuinely got me thinking. And this is a list that I have wanted to put together with my mates for some time. It's something that I think...
Your mates are all here. Let's do it together.
That we talk about as fans a lot. And that is who are the top liners in the comp? Who are the A-graders? And so that's what I've spent the last month doing. So a little bit of background here. I guess at some point you have to define what an A-grader is.
That was my first question.
And I just want to be clear off the top. This is a completely subjective list, right? You can have all the analytics you want. You can have all the form lines. You can have an algorithm that you put together, but ultimately it has to be opinion-based in the end. And so here are my loose theories. The status of an A-grader has to be earned. You don't just become an A-grader because you play a few good games or you play a good season here and there.
Yep.
In my view, an A-grader has to be a top liner for more than 2 seasons back to back.
So Harley Reid off the list straight away.
Can't make it. Now, no, there are exceptions to every rule, but that's a pretty hard and fast one. Mm-hmm. And by the same token, once you earn an A-grade status, you don't simply lose it by having 1 year where you weren't an A-grader.
Okay.
So you get to hold on to it for a little bit.
Keen to see what he does with Darcy Moore. Poor year. Good 3 or 4 before that.
And we've heard in sports movies over the years, and you know that I like intertwining the movie theme into trades, which I know you really...
How many movies would you have watched since we last recorded our last episode?
When was that? October something?
Yeah.
Oh, November, December, January. It's at 90 days. Oh, I don't know, 80?
That's a lot of movies.
But like episodes of TV shows that go for an hour, that's half.
I reckon I've watched 80 minutes of a movie.
What have you been doing? Anyway,
watching live sport.
Oh, God. So let me take you back to Brad Pitt and Moneyball. Of course, Oscar-winning movie. Who said this?
There are rich teams and there are poor teams. Then there's 50 feet of crap. And then there's us.
So that's one take on the quality of teams. And then, of course, we had Ricky Bobby in Talladega Nights.
Well, Dak, here's the deal. I'm the best there is, plain and simple. I mean, I wake up in the morning, I piss excellence, and nobody can hang with my stuff. I'm just a big, hairy American winning machine. If you ain't first, you're last. You know what I'm talking about? That phrase is trademark, not to use the position of Ricky Bobby.
And so my theory is a little bit different, and we arrive at this. I think you have average players, above average players, good players, very good players. Then you have a gap. And then you have your A-graders. This is not predictive, this list. This is here and now.
Yep.
As I said at the top, it's subjective. Since putting this together, I've been through 4 rounds of culling. So it initially started with just me and this notebook and no stats, no season guide, nothing. Just me and a pad and a pen. And I, in my head, went through all 18 teams alphabetically and I got to 67 players. So I had 36, which I thought was certain A-graders, and 31 question marks. Then round 2, I went through all the stats that I could think of. I went through best and fairest, all Australian results, Brownlow votes, everything to me that made sense, how often they played, how often they had a certain amount of disposals, anything that I thought that would give me a better indication of their quality. Now, again, this is not statistically based. I'm not sitting here in the lab going through champion data. It's nothing like that. Ultimately, you have to do this with your eye. So after that, I culled it down to 29 A-graders and 17 question marks. Mm-hmm. So we went from 67 to 46. Then left it for a couple of days, came back, whittled it down to 28 and 4. Mm-hmm. Sat on 28 and 4 for ages. Ultimately, 3 of those 4 I left in and 1 I cut.
Ooh.
So we have...
Tough morning for that bloke.
So after putting the list together, I went to a fair few people that I trust. So 5 current players, 5 former players, 2 senior coaches, 4 heads of football, and 1 chief executive. I'm not sure why I went to the chief executive. I just did.
This sounds more thorough than the All-Australian process.
So Andy Lee has the 100. Mike Sheen had the top 50. We at the Tradies have the 31.
The 31 Sam Stars. I knew you were serious when you walked in with your 2024 season guide under one arm, your Jethro coffee under the other. I walked past the
Jethro coffee, very good.
The cafe before, and you were head in notebook. I even beat you into the studio. That's how serious you are about this.
I've written some stories that have caused waves, and I've slept like a baby that night. I have had nightmares over this. I nearly at Jethro this morning, like 20 minutes ago, I nearly cut one and made it the 30. Sheesh. By the way, it's the 31, right? So I just want to be clear. It's not reverse engineered. Like I didn't try to squeeze a certain amount of players into a certain list or a certain size that made it sexy. These are just the 31 A-graders. And as Leonardo da Vinci said, art is never finished. It is only abandoned. And so this list will sit with us all year and it is subject to change. You can find yourself off the list and you can find yourself on it.
At Tradies Podcast on Instagram and TikTok. I reckon this is going to cause some angst amongst our community.
I'm so glad I'm not on socials, like all the time. But I have anxiety thinking about the result.
You didn't think about sort of opening yourself up to the world of social over summer and seeing what else was out there?
No, I didn't. No, I didn't. All right, let's just get into it and see where it takes us, right? I have no idea where this is going to go, how long it's going to take us. But we're not going to start alphabetically and we're not going to do it by numbers.
Right.
We're going to do it in my own little way. We're going to go state by state, right?
But Sam Stars, the floor is yours.
Okay, so let's start in New South Wales.
Okay.
Given that both Sydney teams had good seasons, went deep into finals. So let's start with the Sydney Swans, shall we? The Sydney Swans have 2 A-graders.
2?
2.
Jeez.
Errol Goulden and Chad Warner. Chad Warner, by the way, for what it's worth, was one of the 4 remaining question marks and came very close to being left off the list.
Does Isaac Heaney play badminton?
So Isaac Heaney is a really interesting one, and Isaac Heaney is a very good player, and playing at his best is a top liner. But he is not a consistent A-grader. He's kicked 261 goals in 201 games, which is a really good output. He had 28 Brownlow votes this year to go with his 34 goals. Amazingly, 2 years earlier, in 22, he kicked 49 goals and only had 7 Brownlow votes. He kicked 15 more goals and had a quarter of the votes, which, by the way, is an indication about how the Brownlow's broken, right? So I'll talk a lot about Brownlow votes here, but I'm not using them as the be-all and end-all. They're simply just an indicator that I like referencing. He's a 2-time All-Australian, he only won his first best and fairest this year, and he has a bad record in finals. I don't think he has played enough A-grade football back-to-back consistently to make the list.
I'll challenge you on the finals assertion only because they wouldn't have made the prelim in the same path they did if he didn't have the final he did against the Giants in that qualifying.
Yeah, he was really good in that
Took mark of the century in a final.
He was really good in that game.
Was incredible. He won the game off his own boot that day.
I challenge you on that, but yeah, he was good that day.
The grand final was unfortunate. The injury, which we didn't know about until the day, and he's played a stinker in that 22 grand final against the Cats a couple of years earlier. But I think he's an A-grader. I'll challenge you on that. I know you're a massive fan of Sydney. I feel like the city of Sydney's wrapped its arms around you, but I reckon they'll be out with pitchforks for this one.
Yeah, like there are some ones that, again, I've really lost sleep over, leaving them off the list. He wasn't one for me.
Grundy?
No.
And the other two I had question marks, which I don't think are A-graders, but they're good players. The Lizard and Tom Papley.
Tom Papley, I really stressed about more than Heaney. Mm-hmm. So he's an All-Australian. He's a 3-time leading goal kicker. He's extremely consistent. Like he kicked 29 goals in his first season. He has actually, numbers-wise, a very similar career to Luke Breust. Mm-hmm. Third in the best and fairest in 2020. He came 10th this year in the best and fairest. Now it's probably harder,
but yeah,
yeah, and it's probably harder his position that he plays to be higher up in a best and fairest, arguably. Now, best and fairest are difficult because every team has a different system, right? Yeah. That's why putting together these sort of lists are hard. But, ultimately you have to trust your eye, you have to trust impact on games consistently. And I think compared to, I actually originally had him on and was convinced by those close to me to take him off. So he's right on the edge and he's a watch for me in 2025, but he did not make the list. So the Sydney Swans have 2.
Perhaps as a big consumer of content, I reckon this might get back to him.
That's okay. I hope, big fan of TPAP. In fact, I'm pretty sure we coined that.
That's right.
Didn't it come up in a final or something? Didn't he get called TPAP by a commentator?
Was that from a nuts and bolts? Where did we sort of first do that?
I think it was a nuts and bolts. Over to their cross-town rivals, Greater Western Sydney, who I believe have one more.
Oh, what?
I have them with 3.
Oh, one more.
Sorry,
okay.
One more than the Swans.
Whew.
So my A-graders for Greater Western Sydney: Toby Green, Tom Green, and Sam Taylor.
Jesse Hogan stiff.
He's not stiff at all, actually, and I'll tell you why. So, Coleman medalist, All-Australian and best and fairest this year. It's his best year ever.
Yeah, but it's not like he's only played one good year of footy.
Hang on, just let me get there. He actually kicked 85 goals in his first 2 seasons as a teenager, which gets completely lost when you talk about Jesse Hogan playing for the shit team that Melbourne were at the time.
Ragdolled Alex Rance one night.
Okay.
No, just
a drive-by.
He's kicked 126 goals in the last 2 seasons. So his first 2 years and his most recent 2 years have been outstanding. Unfortunately, for a myriad of reasons, a lot of which Jesse's opened up about. He's had injury, he's had off-field issues, he's moved clubs a lot. There's just too much mediocrity in the middle.
Yeah, but I think Jesse was good last year, and the 23 years, kicked 49 goals in 23 games.
Have you not listened? Did you not listen to the last 15 seconds? Went through this. His last 2 years have been outstanding.
I know your weight, body of work, but I reckon the last 2 years sort of usurps that. Anyway, it's Sam Stars.
He didn't quite make it. Can we get away from Sam Stars, by the way? This is the A-graders. Sam's A-graders.
Okay, sorry to our voice memo.
Liam.
Anyone
else you want to challenge me on there?
No, not really. The other one, a big watch on in the next 12 months is Finn Callaghan. I reckon A-grade sort of territory coming up. Lockie Whitfield is a dual All-Australian. We don't probably talk about him enough. And Jack Buckley, underrated, not an A-grader.
Jack Buckley you want to go with?
No. Well, him and Sam Taylor are the best 2 key backs in the comp.
Oh.
In a pairing.
Good afternoon to Jacob Wiedering.
Who's his combo?
No one. Someone that plays in the VFL. So Lockie Whitfield I thought was a really interesting one. 12 seasons, he's polled Brownlow votes in 11 of them. Very consistent. Two-time All-Australian, two-time Best and Fairest winner. Best and Fairest results recently came third in 24, fourth in 23. In 2022, he finished outside the top 10. He did miss 6 games through injury in 2022. Very good player, Lachie Whitfield. Not quite an A-grader. I had a look at Josh Kelly, finished outside the top 10 of Best and Fairest this year. Only played 17 games. All-Australian 2017, won the Best and Fairest that year. And that was 7 years ago. And at that point, I thought I think that him and Stephen Coniglio were going to be two of the best players in the comp for a long, long time. They were probably the 2017 version of what Oliver and Petrarca have recently been. And it just hasn't panned out that way. Tom Green, slightly controversial. Not a Best and Fairest winner yet, not an All-Australian yet.
Yeah.
He finished third in the BNF in 22, second in 23, second last year. So he's been very consistent up towards the top end. 43 Brownlow votes in the last 2 seasons. Maybe he doesn't damage you by foot enough, but I think what he makes up, there's been plenty of A-graders historically that haven't been great kicks.
Yeah.
I think from the naked eye watching him, he's an A-grade midfielder. He's a player that I would want in my team.
Yeah.
So he makes it for me. So
I saw a photo or video of him the other day. Just looks ready to go in 25, I reckon, Tom Green. I just feel like he's a bit more chiseled than he has been.
Big boy. Okay, from New South Wales to South Australia. And we go to the Adelaide Crows, who have 2 A-graders.
Okay.
The 2 A-graders are Jordan Dawson
Okay.
and Taylor Walker. Go on. No, throw it at me because I'm ready for this. I'm ready.
When I was just working through mine last night, watching a bit of the live cricket action.
The Big Bash.
Well, yeah,
Disappointed that the Big Bash is over.
Grade 7 product.
Oh,
I had Jordan Dawson on the fence. I had
Dawson. Don't worry. Dawson was on the fence all the time, the whole time.
But I can understand why you put him in, because back to what you rattled off the start, one poor year doesn't put you out of contention. Now, his body let him down at times in 24, but I think his body of work really, really stacks up. Tex, not in 2025. I don't think he's an A-grader.
No, but it's not predictive, as I said. It's not predictive.
But he's not going to play more than 16 games. Like, he's missed a lot of footy.
So
I think if you're doing this list 12 months ago, absolutely. But I don't think off the last 12 months. I think he's absolutely been an A-grader, but I think he's just tipped over the other side now.
Maybe, and we might be having that conversation in 12 months' time. But let me make the case for Taylor Walker, and we talk about A-graders in the competition. So he's 30th on the all-time goal kickers list.
Yeah.
Which is pretty incredible. He only kicked 29 goals.
Luke Bruce is up there as well, but he's on an A-grader.
He only kicked 29. Luke Bruce was a big question mark for a long time. He only kicked 29 goals in 24, but he kicked 76 the year before.
So hang on. You got Tex in, but not Jesse Hogan.
Playing in a team. So this is what I'm trying to, maybe by the end of this you'll understand. It's about consistency over a period of time. Taylor Walker's career compared to Jesse Hogan's is not comparable because Taylor Walker does it year after year after year.
Yeah, but this is the 2025 A-graders, not the 2023 A-graders.
But it's not predictive. We haven't started 2025 yet. The other thing about Taylor Walker, and then I'll go to war about this. I think that there's an argument that he's the best kick in the competition. I'm not saying for goal. I'm saying I think there's an argument that Taylor Walker by foot is the best user in the comp.
It's a beautiful field kick.
Left and right foot?
Left foot when he wheels onto it.
The game is ultimately about kicking. I think
I'll add that to my notes.
I think this is like the free agency one. Are they the ones that come for free? And the ones you don't have to trade for? I had a quick look at Isaac Rankin halfway through, and I can't believe I even considered him. He's just hasn't done it for long enough. Averages less than a goal and a half a game, 16 disposals, on the averages 9 kicks a game. He has to do it for longer, I think. Adelaide have 2.
Thought watch here for me. No, just not.
I'm sorry, what?
Next 12 months. This is the 2026 predictive.
Yeah, Riley Thilthorpe has got half his career ahead of him before he becomes considered for an A-grader. That's one of the worst things you've ever said. Port Adelaide. Port Adelaide have 2. Pretty stock standard, this one for me. Connor Rosie and Zach Butters. Mm-hmm. Any arguments?
No, I was looking at Jason Horne-Francis. No, I was looking at him.
Okay.
But
was not considered for the list.
body of work, because of body of work?
Yeah, no body
Does
of
he
work.
not? Well, he's tipped over. Was he year 3 now? He's just played his third year.
Was not
of footy?
considered, not sure.
The other one...
I had a look at Wines, just because he's a Brownlow medalist.
yeah.
Just not quite. 36 Brownlow votes in 21 when he won it. 1-time All-Australian, 1-time best and fairest winner. He's a warrior. 253 games over 12 seasons. He's a warrior. Not quite an A-grader.
Alir made my spreadsheet, but he's not an A-grader.
It's just Alir. Like we're talking about different lists here.
Port's backline would be really bad,
But he's
without
not.
Alir.
He can't be considered as an A-grade.
No. He made the sheet, but there's probably 120 names on the sheet, but he's not in my final A grade.
Okay, from South Australia to Queensland. Let's go with the reigning premiers.
Feels like a nice little tour around Australia.
That's good, isn't it? In fact, we'll start with their crosstown rivals, the Gold Coast Suns, who really, for a long time, had 0 A-graders, but I've landed on 1.
Has he played a game for the Suns yet? No. Dan Rioli.
Oh, no, I did consider him. Played in 3 flags, won a best and fairest one. They were horrific. Really,
All-Australian
really
last year?
dug in, All-Australian.
Was he? No. He wasn't.
No, he didn't make it. Not quite. Noah Anderson. 50 Brownlow votes the last 3 years. He's kicked 38 goals. He averages 5 clearance, best and fairest in 23, finished top 5 last year. He's basically played in the centre bounces since his first game, which I think adds weight for Noah Anderson. Now, I know that there's arguments. He plays in a shit team. They don't, he doesn't play as well outside of Queensland like a lot of his teammates don't. I understand all of those arguments, but this is a bloke who runs both ways. He's a leader. He kicks important goals. He's decent by foot. He's in and under. He's a match winner. For me, he's in the Tom Green area where it's, has he got the statistics and has he got the record of some of the other players on this list? Probably not. But for me, when it comes down to it, to the naked eye, you talk about the best players in the competition, he's an A-grader.
Yeah, I like his ability to go forward. I think he hurts you a bit more than some of the other inside mids in the comp.
Yep.
What if there was a player on the Gold Coast Suns list and I told you that he polled more Brownlow votes last year than John Newcomb, Chad Warner, Lachie Neale, Marcus Bontempelli, Zach Merritt, and a guy you've just anointed an A-grader in Jordan Dawson?
Who are you talking about?
Matt Rowell.
Oh,
25 Brownlow medal votes
your man.
last year.
Yep.
And off what you just said, he's been playing in the centre bounce ever since he debuted, just like Noah Anderson.
Yeah, I just don't think there's been a bit of a gap between his first 3 games. He polled 9 Brownlow votes in his first 3 games. Am I making that up?
Yeah. And then got hurt his shoulder.
Yeah, he just hasn't quite been able to be consistent enough, I think, to be.
7th in the Brownlow last year, but finished
It's a great result.
4th in the club BNF for a team that didn't play the finals. Strange. Mac Andrew, watch.
No, not a watch. No.
Ben King, kicks a lot of goals.
Yeah, so, sorry, because I thought we were just going back over to the Brisbane Lions. So Ben King, so fascinating, right? So goals in the last 3 seasons. Now I say seasons because he missed, I think, all of 22 with that knee. Mm-hmm. Goals in the last 3 seasons, 47, 40, 55. So 142 goals, which is, when you compare it to a lot of the other guys on the list of that, let me go back to my notes here. It's actually quite
A lot of pages.
Quite significant. So you look at the totals. If you look at the totals of the last 3 years, right, of 22, 23 and 24, and let's just say add King to 22, add King's 21 to 22 because he missed a year, right? So we're talking about the last 3 seasons essentially. You've got Jeremy Cameron 170, Charlie Curnow 199, Nick Larkey 155, and Ben King 142. So he's right up there as far as like consistency to kick goals. He's a 4-time leading goal kicker, but hasn't won a best and fairest. And in fact, has not once in his career finished in the top 10 of the Gold Coast best and fairest. If that's not the craziest statistic in footy, I don't know what is.
Not once in his career, top 10.
Do you know how long it took me to go through Gold Coast best and fairest results? It was grim areas. It was like a Sunday afternoon in my office, and Diva was wanting a walk, and I was like, no, I have to go through the best and fairest.
So obviously you haven't put your research assistant on just for the start of the year yet. He's more of a March sort of guy.
Dan's just welcomed his first child. Congratulations to Dan and Emma, little Sebastian. So I haven't been bothering Dan yet. But I think with paternity leave, he might actually need the work, to be honest.
The other one just is Touk Miller in the.
We'll go back to
did he make
again.
it to Sam's notebook?
He made it. He made it to the notes. Where are we? Touk Miller. Yes, 2-time All-Australian, 2-time best and fairest winner. Breakout year in 21 and 22 when he polled 44 Brownlow votes in those 2 years. He doesn't kick goals.
Yeah.
At all. He's only played 31 games in the last 2 years. He's a little bit like the Jesse Hogan. I think there's too many seasons either side to consider him an A-grader. But his record is good. You don't like the theory, do you?
I don't like the Jesse Hogan one.
Anyway,
we're in Queensland now. It's sunny. I've got to put that in the past.
The SPF 50's out. The Brisbane Lions. Geez, I've got a lot of names here. This is one of my hardest ones. So the Brisbane Lions, I think, have 4 A-graders. Lachie Neale, Dane Zorko, Harris Andrews, and Charlie Cameron. Thoughts, issues, concerns?
I didn't have Dane Zorko, but I can understand why you've put him in because of body of work and I.
So he's a 5-time best and fairest winner.
Yeah.
He's also a 2-time leading goal kicker.
That's crazy.
Which for a guy that's played a lot at halfback and through the middle, he's pretty amazing. He's polled Brownlow votes in 10 of his 13 seasons. He's been a good player in a shit team, and he's been a good player in a great team.
Yeah.
And I think his body of work necessitates that he's an A-grader.
Yeah, that's fair. And Kitty Coleman goes down at the start of last year, so who do they put to halfback?
Dane Zorko.
And he becomes an All-Australian.
Yeah.
I think a premiership team.
Yep.
Yeah.
I had a really good look at Josh Dunkley.
Yeah. I had him highlighted.
So he doesn't kick goals, averages 23 disposals. He's a tackling machine, averages 6 tackles, 4 clearances. He won a BNF at the Dogs before he left. 3rd in the BNF at Brisbane Lions in a premiership year. 4th the year before in 23. He just doesn't hurt you enough by foot.
Yeah. I just think he does so many big jobs.
No doubt. Josh Dunkley
Not many guys can go with the Bonts and the Cripps and those DeGoey body types.
Josh Dunkley is a very good footballer.
Shit, he's a good player.
Not sure he's an A-grader.
Hugh McCluggage, elite 2 grand finals.
Fascinating career. So the last 6 years, he's finished top 5 in their BNF. The last 6. He's never won one.
It's good going.
Averages 22 disposals. He never misses games. He's played 182 games in 8 seasons.
Not all Australian yet?
He's Mr. Consistency.
Yeah.
He's a very good footballer, Hugh McCluggage.
Did you consider Will Ashcroft?
I did. Yep. 2 seasons, 31 games. Has had 25 disposals or more in 12 of those 31 games. That's bloody good going. Norm Smith medalist really sucked me in. The Norm Smith medal really sucked me in. But
Sam just looking through the Norm Smith.
But body of work, not quite yet.
Would Joe Danaher have been on this list?
So Joe Danaher is. Yep. So he's my. So we'll go through the ladder at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Just remember, just have like a in brackets +1 for Brisbane from the 24 season. I had him as a grader for what he's been able to do.
Shitty was a good player.
He's a big loss.
Does he play an AFL game again?
Hang on. Now I know you. I know you. What are you getting at here? No. Stop it. You broke the story in grand final week. He then retired, right?
Mm.
And now you're saying
he's only 30.
You're saying he's lurable.
This is Sam's A-graders.
Are you saying that he's lurable?
Everyone's lurable, Sam.
Well, you and I aren't. I'm lurable if there's cash involved.
Joe walked away from more than 900 grand, so cash. I think you and Joe are probably different ends of the spectrum.
I don't think I'd walk away from anything for 900 grand. Okay, from Queensland to Western Australia. Would you like to go West Coast or would you like to go Fremantle?
You pick.
Okay, let's go Fremantle. Very interesting one, Fremantle, and we landed on 2.
This could have been 2 or 5.
Yep, I've got 2 and then ruled out 3. Caleb Sarong and Andrew Brayshaw are my A-graders. Sarong has just been an excellent player consistently, and his last 2 seasons he's really put his foot down. Averaged 26 disposals, 52 Brownlow votes in the last 2 years, 6 clearances, 4.5 tackles, best and fairest and All-Australian the last 2 years. And Brayshaw, also an All-Australian, best and fairest winner as well back in 22, 57 Brownlow votes the last 3 years. He's a tackling machine. He doesn't kick goals. He doesn't hurt you as much as Sarong does, but his ability to run both ways and his consistency over time, those 2 are A-graders.
Yeah, Brayshaw voted the best player in the comp by the coaches a year or 2 back.
Was it the players, I think, wasn't it?
Or was it the players?
I think it was the players MVP.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think it was coaches.
It's good going.
Yep.
Luke Ryan?
No.
Dual All-Australian.
Yeah, not quite. He's not an A-grader.
Shea Bolton?
Shea Bolton, an All-Australian and a leading goal kicker. 165 goals in 135 games is good going. Shea Bolton would be on this list if he had a decent year in 24.
You just told me that 1 year
But
doesn't hurt.
he packed it in and decided not to dig in when the going got tough. And he went down in my estimations in 24.
Just scroll back to about 2 minutes into this episode for those listening. You just said at the start that 1 year doesn't hurt you.
Well, but he wasn't an A-grader before that. See, 1 year doesn't hurt you if you've earned it. He didn't earn it.
Right.
And I know there's Fremantle supporters screaming. I know my mate Joel in Sydney, who's a diehard Fremantle supporter, will be screaming at the pod about Hayden Young.
Yeah. You're rolling a similar sort of mullet tied back setup to Hayden Young at the moment.
He's slightly better looking than that, I think. 1 good year. He's had 1 good year. Everyone calm down. He moved from halfback and went into the midfield. He's had 1 good year. He's had 12 Brownlow votes in his career. So, no, not yet.
Mm-hmm.
West Coast. And West Coast A-graders are... And we're done.
Hang on. How many All-Australians has Tex made?
I'd have to go back. I don't know.
So I'm just going to look this up as we're talking. Can you answer me how many...
No, you're gonna do the whole comparison thing here.
How many All-Australians has Jeremy McGovern?
5.
Tex Walker? All-Australian? Once.
Much harder to be All-Australian full forward than it is key back.
There's 6 forwards and 6 defenders named in All-Australian.
I think it's harder. It's harder to
What?
be. Well, Joe Danaher's an A-grader. We just talked about him, an A-grader. He's been All-Australian full forward once when he's playing for Essendon.
Yeah, but he's played in big finals and...
Can I make my case for McGovern?
McGovern is a 5-time All-Australian. He was All-Australian last year.
Can I make my case? Please? Jeremy McGovern, outstanding footballer. Was an A-grader for a long time.
Premiership player.
A-grader for a long time.
BNF's coming out of...
All-Australian in 2016, 17, 18 and 19. Back to back to back to back. A-grader. A-grader at that point. Then was an A-grader in 2024, as we just talked about, right, most recently. In between that, problems. So he only won his first best and fairest this year. He only played 46 games in the 4 seasons between 2020 and 2023. What's that, a total of 90-odd possible games? You cannot be considered an A-grader when you play once every 2 weeks for 4 years.
I would give you that if he didn't just get named. There's some gun centre-half back, full-backs in the comp, and he was named as the...
Consistency over time was an A-grader, not anymore.
So I thought you set off WA with the Harley Reid comments 12 months ago. This is worse.
No, I think Jeremy McGovern is a very good player and was an A-grader for a long time. He earned the status.
But he was just named an All-Australian.
Yeah, and if he has a similar year this year, he's back in. But I think having 4 years out...
Kicked 20 goals.
I think having 4 years out in the wilderness hurts him.
Okay. So we just said off the top, Harley's not eligible.
So...
Jake?
People put this to me. Harley Reid's not even close to being in the conversation. He's played a handful of good games.
But if there was Yeah, but
So if,
no,
if
I
Harley
get
Reid
why
had
you're-
the same season this year, in 24, let's say he's had 3 seasons, right?
Yeah.
If he'd had the same type of season, 1, 2, 3, he wouldn't be considered.
But if you're picking a backyard school footy,
That's
a
different.
lunchtime team,
He'd be
would he
in
be
it.
in the top 40?
Yeah, absolutely. He might be in the team. He might be on the bench if I was picking a team for tomorrow. It's not this
and
list.
it's worthy of a debate.
It's not this list.
Jake Waterman only 1 good year,
I can't believe you're throwing Jake Waterman at me.
all Australian.
I can't believe you're throwing. So? He's had 1 good year. I can't believe you just threw Jake Waterman at me. It's unbelievable.
I've learnt today that.
Wait, who's the guy he threw at me earlier? Well, was it? Oh, Lear. Come on, Mitch.
Do you watch Port games?
Yes, I do. Very closely. Very good player, Lear. All right, so
Carried that back line for years.
we've done the trip around Australia, and we're in the big smoke now. We're in Melbourne. Or we should say Victoria, otherwise Mitch will get upset. Let's go to the Melbourne Football Club. And at equal top on the list of A-graders, the Melbourne Football Club have 4. Pretty simple one for me. May, Petrarca, Gawn, Oliver.
Yeah.
Anyone else you'd like to look at?
Nah, that's pretty much it. I think Cozzy Pickett we sleep on a bit, but he's
No.
not an A-grader. I think he's heading that direction. Going to miss the first 3 games of this year, which hurts Melbourne, mind you.
I feel like that's
Bailey Fritsch flirted with the A-grade conversation a year or 2 back, but he just hasn't kicked on, has he? Kicked 6 or 7 in a granny.
Kick 6, yeah. Can I tell you about Bailey Fritsch? He's a 5-time leading goal kicker,
Yeah, but their forward line hasn't done much.
including in a premiership year. Leading goal kicker in a premiership year says a bit about you. When he kicked 4 in a qualifying final and 6 in a grand final. For a medium-sized forward, they're big results,
They
right?
were shortened games as well that year.
He kicked 193. He's kicked 193 goals in the last 4 seasons. So Melbourne kicked 1,203 goals in those 4 seasons. In the last 4 years, Bailey Fritsch has kicked 16% of Melbourne's score. That is good going for a guy who's not a key forward. That's all I'd like to say. But he's not on the list. And Jake Lever, I know a lot of Melbourne supporters I spoke to were upset with me. 170 games in the last 10 seasons. He plays third tall. He's only finished top 3 in the best and fairest once, which was in 23. All-Australian only once. Nominated in the squad only one other time, which was in 2017 when he played for Adelaide. Jake Lever, a very good footballer, not an A-grader.
Yeah, I'll cop that.
Okay.
Clary, just the 1 year, did it?
He's on watch.
Okay.
But given what I've been seeing, people have been sending me from Instagram screenshots about how his rig's going. He looks like he's in for a big year.
Yeah, I've seen a bit of him train this year. He looks sharp.
Yep. I just hope he's been wearing SPF 100 like I have. He's been training a lot without a shirt on. It gives me anxiety. Collingwood. Of all the teams that I went through, this was probably the most stressful. The Pies. So many on their list.
Well, given you put Tex in, you'd have Tom Mitchell as an all A-grader, wouldn't you?
Was not considered.
Right. So bodywork stacks up for some, but not others. Okay, yeah, cool.
No, that's not true. Tom Mitchell, a very good player over a long period of time. Doesn't quite make the A-grade list. They've got one. They've got one A-grader.
Nick
Dacos.
Darcy Moore stiff. On your...
Don't. This breaks my heart. I am the leader of the Darcy Moore fan club. You know this. And I know that this will make your man Kane Corns very happy that I've left him off the list, which is very vindictive of Kane. But this hurt me. This got me emotional. He's a 2-time All-Australian, including 2023 when he's Premiership captain. His body of work with consistency, and I think the poor year that he had last year has really hurt him. He's probably a victim of his own athleticism at times because obviously he started as a forward and has now had to find his way as a back. I really wanted to put him on, but I had to put all my feelings to one side and I left him off. I also left off Sidebottom, Pendlebury, Houston, DeGoey, Howe, Mitchell.
Houston was in my conversation.
Averages 20 disposals, doesn't kick goals. He's elite by foot.
Houston?
Yeah,
He's a half-back.
I understand that.
Doesn't kick goals.
There are halfbacks that kick goals. He doesn't poll Brownlow votes. All Australian the last 2 years. Very good halfback, not an A-grader.
Josh Dacos.
No. Jordan De Goey, I really thought about for a long time.
Yeah.
He averages 18 disposals. He's kicked 201 goals in 171 games, which is good going.
He's got a body of work. His 2018 season was fantastic.
He only averages 17 games a year across his career, which I think hurts him. Very good record in finals, made it tempting. But is he an A-grader? Oh, like consistently? No, I think is the answer. So the Pies have won.
Let us know your thoughts at Tradies Podcast. There might be a few getting involved.
Saints have none. Jack Sinclair, very stiff.
Cal Wilkie in that conversation too, I reckon.
No.
I know you just watch the highlights and the goals and stuff, but Cal Wilkie's a good defender.
So Cal Wilkie's a good defender. This is like your Aliir comment.
He's an exceptional defender.
He's a very good defender. He's not close to being an A-grader.
Not close.
Not
Cal
close.
Wilkie.
No.
Jeez.
Let's go back to the original. Just deep breath in. Let's go back to the original concept. There are average players. There are above average players. There are good players. There are very good players. Then there's a gap. And then there's A-graders. Now think to yourself and be honest with yourself. Is Cal Wilkie really considered?
He's on the fringe.
No, he's not. He's actually not.
I'll go hard against your comment of he's a long way away, or whatever you said.
Long way away. He's on the other fairway.
You seem to be waiting the years of like 21, 22 more than last year. So Jack Steele
That's not true. Very good player, Jack Steele. Very good player. Doesn't hurt you enough by foot.
No, I'll give you that. Rowan Marshall.
Thought about it? Not quite. Jack Sinclair, his last 2 seasons have been unbelievable. Didn't actually poll a Brownlow vote until 2022, which I thought was amazing. He now has 41 as a halfback. Multi-position, gets thrown into the middle. Two-time All-Australian, 2-time best and fairest winner. I really thought long and hard about Jack Sinclair.
The thing about St Kilda is they have like 5 elite halfbacks, but no elite mids.
I know. It's an issue for him.
One name to really keep an eye on the next 12 months is Naziah Wanganeen Miller, and I reckon he's going to get a bit of a chat on the main body of tradies this year too.
Oh boy, we won't get much of a chat as an A-grade potential, but yep, he might be traded.
Jesus, elite user.
Yep. I'd love to be on Mitch's consideration, because I think if you play like a good game, you're considered. Hawthorn have 1 A-grader.
So remember Ben Ronk kicked 7 in a game?
He
Maybe like his first game at the G or something?
He kicked 7 or 8 on the G against...
It was something.
Was it against Richmond, or who was it against?
It was against Hawthorn at the G.
It was against Hawthorn.
It was a magical
It was
night.
like his first 10 games for sure.
You know where you were when he kicked 7.
Cole Reamers. We can do this more if you want.
No, thanks. Can we get back to the A-graders list, please? I'm very busy.
It was his 3rd game of footy.
Yeah, literally. I jumped the gun.
Hawthorn.
We'll do a standalone Ben Ronk episode one day.
It's 12 seconds of my life I won't get back. Hawthorn have 1.
Yep.
James Sicily. I tried really hard to get Bruce in. I tried really hard, but you can't really, when he's not going to be in their, he's not potentially their best 22.
No, I know. I got it.
But
He's a Callaway guy, Luke Bruce. So Sam's played with him before, and they've enjoyed some time in the greens together, and thought, how can I get Callaway's own?
Bit of favour
I would
work.
be lying if I said that I wasn't trying to get him in. I'd be lying. But at least I'm being open and honest about it. I'm putting my hand up, but all friendships aside.
Integrity came through.
2-time All-Australian, 5-time leading goal kicker. Interesting stat about Bruce. So, like, if you take out his first year, when he kicked 30, and he was injured for a lot of 2020, so he kicked 16 goals from 13 games, his lowest goal tally before this year, when he was the sub basically the whole year, was 38, and his highest tally was 54. So for the vast majority of Luke Bruce's career, you could pencil him in for 40 to 50 goals a year. He's kicked 549 goals from 300 games.
Poor Luke Bruce, he's just listened to this and he's gone to AFL tables. He's like, Tex has done this. I've done this. How's he going to A-grade it and not me? I feel sorry for Luke.
It's not an unfair question. That's not an unfair question.
Did you consider John Newcomb?
I did. Research assistant Dan in between middle of the night feedings with Sebastian really rallied hard for him. Got a lot of strange texts in the middle of the night, angry that I wasn't.
Play some good games.
53 Brownlow votes in the last 3 years. Best and fairest this year. He's definitely on my watch list. He's top of the watch list for 25, I think.
Where is Will Day on that watch list?
So Will Day's an easy one for me. I think it's very clear he's going to be an A-grader. When you watch him play, this comes back to that naked eye conversation, doesn't it? Like, you can have all the stats in the world, but when you watch Will Day play footy, you go, well, that bloke is going to be something. So I think he'll be an A-grader. It's just that he hasn't been in the competition for that long. He's been hampered by a couple of injuries, so he hasn't put the body of work together. He's going to be an A-grader.
I'm
seat 1A on the Dylan Moore fan club bandwagon, but I can understand why he's not an A-grader yet, because he's only played 1 or 2 good years.
He's a good player.
Tom Barras?
No.
Geez, you don't like these key backs, do you?
No, I've got key backs in there.
How many more good games like the finals does the Wizard need to play?
Heaps more. Heaps. Years away.
Josh Battle?
No.
Geez, clubs came for him like he was an A-grader.
Oh, so you're barracking for your trade stories now.
Give me a spell.
Extraordinary from you. Hawthorn have 1.
That could be 5 by the end of the year.
Could be, but we're not at the end of the year. We're here. Goodness gracious. Over to the kennel. Now, despite some hard lobbying from Diva on the dogs, I've only got 1. And he might be captain of the A-graders, Marcus Bontempelli.
Mm-hmm.
He's one of the few blokes in this list, by the way, Bontempelli, that doesn't require notes.
Yeah.
It's just like he is almost the prototype A-grader. He is a guy that not only is his best potentially better than anyone else's, he's a guy that consistently does it.
Yeah.
It wouldn't matter if he was playing in a bad team or a good team. He's just won his 6th best and fairest. Like, I went through the Bulldogs best and fairest results for like the last 7 or 8 years. It's actually astronomical how, like, if you're any other player, how difficult it is to poll against him. Do you know? Like,
and Just Quietly, which is it's a spin-off of Just Quickly.
Oh God, we've got a breakaway. Is this like Better Call Saul off after Breaking Bad?
I don't mind it.
Just Quietly.
Faultless pre-season. The 12 months before.
Don't. Marcus, if you're listening, I'm tapping all of the wood. I can't believe that Mitch has just done what you've done. When you say faultless pre-season, there's going to be a release in a couple of weeks. Marcus Bontempelli out of Noosa has done a hamstring.
Oh.
I can't believe you've gone there.
Adam Treloar?
Thank you for asking.
No. That wasn't a question. That was he should be in.
So let me tell you about Adam Treloar. He actually came second in a best and fairest for GWS all the way back in 2015 as a 22-year-old. His first 2 years when he went to Collingwood, he finished second and then third in the BNF.
Sounds like an A-grader to me.
154 goals from 254 games. So he kicks goals, which we love. 26 Brownlow votes in 2024. All-Australian for the first time. He only polled 21 Brownlow votes in totality of the previous 4 seasons. So that's how good he was last year. A little bit like Jesse Hogan. Not quite enough in between for me to be considered an A-grader. Very good player, has been knocking on the door of the A-grade office for a long time, just hasn't found his way in.
Libba?
I actually had him down as well. I had a look at him. 6th in the best and fairest in 2024. Bont just won his 6th, which I mentioned, so it's pretty hard. He won it in 2014. He's been second 3 times and third twice. Very good inside midfielder. He's often a guy that, you know, you can attribute the Bulldogs' form to Tom's, but doesn't quite make the A-grade list.
Sam Darcy's a watch list.
Yep. But I think you would agree, not an A-grader. Yep.
Aaron Norton?
Aaron Norton.
Sorry, I spoke too quickly there. Yes.
Aaron Norton.
Yes.
No.
That was a pretty firm no.
North Melbourne. 0.
Oh. Geez, I actually had them down for 2.
Larky and LDU.
Sheasel and LDU.
Nah, she's played 2 years.
And Larkey did kick 71 goals in 2023, which seems to be your year of choice when it comes to...
You want to compare Taylor Walker and Nick Larkey, do you? I'm happy to
compare their 2023s.
Happy to compare their careers if you'd like.
He kicked 71 goals in a team that had about 4 inside 50s a game.
Now, so can I ask you a question on this? I don't know the answer. And when I went through the list of people that I spoke to, I asked all of them this. So when you're a forward, Mitch, particularly a goal-kicking forward, is it easier or harder to play in a bad team?
I'd say, well, it's harder, but you're more likely to kick bigger bags because there's
bigger percentage
probably,
of the score.
Yeah.
So Nick Larkey, very good player. Last 4 seasons, 197 goals. In the last 4 seasons, North Melbourne as a team kicked 890 goals. So we talked about Bailey Fritsch was 16% of Melbourne's score the last 4 seasons. Nick Larkey, 197 of 890, ends up being 22%.
That's crazy.
He's kicking one of every 5, more than one of every of North's 5 goals. That's extraordinary. A 4-time leading goal kicker. He just...
Did you sweat on him? Was you a sweater?
Yeah, I sweated on him for a long time. I just don't think he's yet put together an A-graders quality of consistency.
Okay. The smoky list for the A-graders, Tristan Cherry.
No. Luke Davies-Uniacke. 31 Brownlow votes the last 2 years. Before that, his highest tally was just 8.
Yeah, his body lets him down. Has let him down.
Yeah, thank you. It was almost like I was going to say that. But he's only played in 21 wins in his last 108, which is less than 20%. 45 Brownlow votes total. He hadn't won a best and fairest until 2024. He finished 4th in 23, 2nd in 22, 5th in 21. Now, this is going to sound extremely harsh, but it's only because I rate him very highly as a player. Luke Davies-Uniacke probably should be a 4-time best and fairest by now, playing in that team.
Yeah.
And he's not, and that's okay. I think, was it you who said this when we were talking about, because we've talked about LDU and tradies a lot, right, on the whiteboard.
We will be.
And we will be again this year because he still hasn't signed. And was it you who did the story about he's saying he wanted to be a North Melbourne player? Or
Yeah, he said, I see my future at Arden Street.
That's right.
Paraphrasing.
Which was a great quote. But I think it was you who first said this publicly, and I couldn't agree more, was that he might end up being that player who doesn't want to be the face. So, let's just pull out a club, right? Let's say he's playing at Melbourne or playing at Carlton behind your Crippses and your Walshes and your Petrarcas and your Olivers. Not behind, but alongside. I feel like he'd thrive more in that environment.
Yeah.
Has he announced himself as an A-grader at the competition? Well, geez, he's played some games. So I remember was it the start of 24 or the start of 23, that game they won against Freo over there. I reckon it was round 1.
Clarko's on the bench giving the little squats.
Yeah, I reckon it was 23, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Was that the game that the siren went, remember? And Luke McDonald was running up to the umpire and did the siren go.
Yeah. And
I'm pretty sure Davies-Uniacke had just one of those astronomical 3rd and 4th quarters. And I walked away from it and it was just, my phone was blowing up about how good this bloke was. I just want to see him do it more often. So I know it's harsh. He's the one I sweated on for a long time. But for me, Luke Davies-Uniacke is not yet an A-grader. The Carlton Football Club, like Brisbane and Melbourne, have the equal most A-graders in the competition with 4. Patrick Cripps, Jacob Wietering, Charlie Curnow, and Sam Walsh. Sam Walsh, I think, is lucky to be on this list.
Yeah.
He averages 28 disposals and 4 clearances. He's polled 79 Brownlow votes in just 119 games, which is pretty good going. He's a 1-time best and fairest and 1-time All-Australian, which were in the same year. Here are the 2 things that I think keeps him on the list. And I'm not saying I'm right with these things. You may argue them. One is that he plays a lot injured. I'm not sure he's played that many games consistently back-to-back where he hasn't been quite injured.
Yeah.
Those who know and those who make calls about Carlton, which I know you do a lot, will know that this bloke has played with some of the worst injuries you've heard of.
Yep.
The guys I think about when I hear about blokes playing injured a lot are him and Nat Fyfe. Some of the injuries that Fyfe has played with and been best on ground are just like mind-boggling.
His 23 final series was when they made that run.
And so that was my last note. He was a Gary Ayres medalist in 23 and they didn't play in the grand final.
Yeah.
And that for me elevates him and keeps him on the A-graders list. What I would say is that if he has another year, and did he just do a hamstring? Was that your story?
It wasn't my story, but he has done a hamstring.
So if he has another year, Mitch, where it's injury interrupted, I'll stop making excuses for him, and he's probably off. Mackay, I had a very quick look at, just because he won a Coleman, and he was all Australian in that year.
Jeez, he's in the conversation.
No, I don't think he is. He just doesn't do enough.
Saw him match Sim the other day. Jeez, I reckon he's going to have a good year. TDK in the next 12 months?
I think, like, how often have you walked away from a Carlton game and said TDK was unbelievable today? Like, I think maybe half a dozen times, maybe 10 times. Not enough.
Definitely not when they made him sub.
It may go down as the worst selection decision since I've been able to watch football in 25 years. It didn't make sense at the time. It didn't make sense during the game. It didn't make sense after. It still doesn't make sense. I haven't heard anyone try to successfully defend that decision.
Matt Kennedy wasn't happy with it when he got subbed out. Anyway,
why'd you have to bring up that game? Fuck's sake.
Oh, was it 6? You were at the
I was at the Great Northern.
with all the
I was at the Great Northern with my sister. With all the Carlton fans, and I heard tears halfway through the first quarter. I could hear people crying in the background. Carlton are done. They've got 4. Who is next on the list? The Essendon Football Club. Pretty easy. Essendon, they got 1. Of all the notes, look at Essendon. Essendon's just Zach Merritt, no notes.
I was going to say Zach Merritt stiff.
What do you mean? He's on.
Well, Nate Caddy's an A-grader, isn't he?
Oh, my God.
I'm going to be big on Nate this year. Whew.
So for those who didn't listen to our Tradies Awards, you can go back and find us wherever you get your podcast. Mitch said something along the lines of, and please disagree with me if I'm paraphrasing you too harshly, Nate Caddy's the next Charlie Curnow.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah, just like, oh, God.
Ben Mackay's paid like an A-grader?
Are you willing now to admit that you lost on the Ben Mackay? Have you let go of the Ben Mackay one? Are you now willing to say, Sam, you were right and I was wrong?
No. His last 10 games of 24, poor.
Poor's kind.
But there was a my biggest point on the whole Ben Mackay thing, and I'll go to my grave with this, is there was a market.
No need to talk about death.
There was a market for him, and the Hawks and the Bombers had a bidding war for him. I know you don't respect key backs that change games like McGovern and that, but there is a market for these key backs.
So are you saying that Ben Mackay is a key back that changes games? Is that what you just said?
In time, he will change games. Oh. He's still got a long way to go on that contract.
Zach Merritt, A-grader, you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think so too. Essendon have only 1, which I think is one of the reasons that they haven't been going any good because they haven't got enough good players.
Jordan Ridley, if his body, I think he's got potential to be I'm just to give Essendon a bit more.
Penultimate team, second last, Richmond, none.
Did you consider Tim Taranto?
I had a look at him, but it was the conversation was over pretty quickly.
And given your favouritism of years gone by, Tom Lynch should be sort of
hasn't he played 8 games in the last 2 years?
Yeah, but you just said that Tex was an A-grader.
But he said 1 year that was less than 8. Tom's had 2 now.
Right.
Doesn't play enough.
2. Jeez, he's good in those flags.
And you know what? You know who we're finishing with, boys? The Geelong Football Club have 3 A-graders. Jeremy Cameron, Patrick Dangerfield, and Tom Stewart. Thoughts, issues, concerns?
That's fair.
I know what's coming, so just get it over and done with.
In my world, Max Holmes is an A-grader.
He can't possibly be considered an A-grader.
On the criteria you've delivered, I can understand why you haven't put him in.
The bloke polled one Brownlow vote in 2023.
Jeez, he had a good 24.
He had 605 disposals and 13 goals and 10 Brownlow votes in 24. And before that had 400 disposals, 7 goals and 1 Brownlow vote. He's had one good year.
He's a game changer.
He's had one good year. He's not even close to being considered.
No, he's close.
No, he's not.
Geelong was one Max Holmes hamstring away from making a grand final last year.
That says more about Geelong than it says about Max Holmes.
He had that game on his boot. I'm a big Bailey Smith fan. I thought you, given your love for him, the fact you coached him under 18s, all that, you were maybe going to put him in because...
It's outrageous commentary from you. I'm not even gonna add oxygen to that garbage.
The Luke Brewster clause.
I left him off. Okay, so let me just quickly go
Tyson Stengel
alphabetically. Who? No. The A-graders alphabetically, as in like their clubs. Taylor Walker, Jordan Dawson, Lachie Neale, Harris Andrews, Charlie Cameron, Dane Zorko, Patrick Cripps, Sam Walsh, Jacob Wiedering, Charlie Curnow, Nick Dacos, Zach Merritt, Caleb Sarong, Andrew Brayshaw, Jeremy Cameron, Patrick Dangerfield, Tom Stewart, Noah Anderson, Toby Green, Tom Green, Sam Taylor, James Sicily, Stephen May, Christian Petrarca, Max Gawn, Clayton Oliver, Connor Rosie, Zach Butters, Errol Goulden, Chad Warner, Marcus Bontempelli. 20 midfielders, 5 forwards and 6 defenders.
Jeremy McGovern and Jesse Hogan, if you've just tuned
31.
in, that was not... we haven't edited that by mistake. You weren't on the list.
Missed out. Jesse Hogan and Jeremy McGovern, both very good footballers, but body of work, as I said initially in my list, they don't quite make it. So
Jesse Hogan's in later today for the 7 photo shoot. So I might have to put that to him, see what he says.
Oh, the players in today? Do you get to do interviews with them?
Yeah.
Right, so you get to do interviews with them because of a deal between the AFL and the host broadcaster, you get access to them?
No, it's actually...
Because I work as an independent journalist. I don't get access to these players because of a paid deal. So I'm just putting it out there for our listeners.
So each player that I speak to for 7 News
Yes.
is a, to use your word, independent request to that of the broadcast agreement.
Has nothing to do with the fact that they're in the
building.
Yeah,
so it does...
I see.
It does facilitate the interview a bit easier, but they are individual requests.
I just think
independent.
I think declaring this sort of stuff to our listeners is very important, and independence is very important.
But
The Luke Bruce clause.
I don't always get who I want to speak to.
Okay.
So who was the culture club had the most? Brisbane and Carlton.
So yeah, I'll go through the ladder, and I think
So hang on, you're saying Carlton are premiership favourites again?
silly. Mitch is in one of those moods. So Brisbane, Melbourne, and Carlton. So there's sections here. Brisbane, Melbourne, and Carlton all have 4, right? Sydney, GWS, and Geelong all have 3. Port Adelaide and Freo 2. Collingwood, Essendon, Gold Coast, Bulldogs, Hawthorn 1. And 4 have 0. Richmond, St Kilda, West Coast, and North. It is actually quite interesting, Mitch. So I'm calling this, and a shout out to our mate Benny Cameron here who gave me this. I'm calling this the reverse Robert Walls theory. And Robert Walls always used to talk about your bottom 6.
Yeah.
You know, don't worry about the stars. It's your bottom 6 who make you the team that you can be. And I've always loved and respected that view. And Wallsy, one of the all-time greats. I've flipped it and looked at it the other way. I think the teams that end up contending are the teams that have the most superstars. And in this case, I know superstar is a word that gets thrown around. In this case, top liners or A-graders. Brisbane just won the flag, and they had 5 last year when you include Danaher. Melbourne and Carlton, I think our listeners would all agree, have great lists but are underperforming. Melbourne, of course, have won a flag in recent times. Sydney, GWS and Geelong continue to be up there towards the last Saturday of September. Port Adelaide and Freo on 2, they're that middle of the rung sort of club that continue to sort of knock on the door of September. Collingwood, Essendon, Gold Coast, the Bulldogs and Hawthorn all make sense. The Bulldogs are probably the outlier there. I think they've arguably got the best list in the comp, but as far as A-graders only have 1. Hawthorn are the ones that are overperforming. So we can use this list to talk about, well, why are clubs underperforming and overperforming? Carlton are underperforming because I just think that their coaching setup hasn't allowed them to access their talent as well. Melbourne are underperforming because of cultural issues, which have been well documented. Hawthorn are overperforming because of the quality of their coaching, I think. The Bulldogs are the outlier. And Richmond, St Kilda, West Coast, North, well, there's basically your bottom four.
No, I've enjoyed the exercise. Thanks for taking myself and the tradies listeners on the ride with you.
The good thing about this is that I think, social media will be really fair and reasonable about this. I can't imagine there being anyone upset.
Nah, not at all.
From any of the 18 clubs.
Those Eagles fans, they like you, so.
And I'll be cutting the clips of heaps of context.
I'm looking forward to my phone erupting with people exploding at me for reasons I hadn't yet seen. It'll be some clip that Scotty puts out there and people will get angry. I don't even know what they're getting angry at.
That's why you listen to the full pod.
So what we've actually ended up doing is we've created another whiteboard. And that is the A-grade whiteboard. And when we get our Just Quicklies in, when we get people coming up to us in the street.
Brought to us by 7-Eleven, of course.
Of course. The food on the go lunchtime offers. I think this will become part of the tradies vernacular. And that is, he's having a good year. But is he an A-grader? Thanks for listening. I hope your February's going well. I know that everyone's starving for footy content at the moment. So hopefully chew on that, discuss it with your mates, and just DM Mitch. Thanks, tradies. We'll see you soon.